Going live on the radio. This episode of the Off-Road Podcast is brought to you by Warn, Power Tank, and Medical Gear Outfitters.
Off-Road Podcast, episode 276, Long Range Shooting.
Tonight, Aaron is ready for a medical emergency, Jeremy should be eating ramen, and Ben camps on the side of the Twister.
Welcome to the Off-Road Podcast, the podcast about everything off-road. We cover the news, review products, and interview people in the off-road industry. I'm your host, Ben, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Aaron and Jeremy, along with Cole from Long Range Addicts.
The Weekend Review is brought to you by Medical Gear Outfitters. What are you waiting for? To have a casualty on the trail? Check out medicalgearoutfitters.com to get straightened out. Medical Gear Outfitters has everything you need, whether you're going out for the day or traveling on a year-long expedition. Head over there to get off-road specific kits to meet all of your needs.
So, Jeremy, what's up, man?
Really nothing off-roady. Just still saving. I'm at after my pay next in 2 weeks, based on the overtime I already made this paycheck, I'll be at 80%.
80 point what?
Closer.
Shoot, I think I closed my thing. Yeah, I closed it.
I just, every week that we do this, I want to make sure that I get the entire percentage. I don't want you to just round it to 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
want three decimal points.
I will go open that up real quick and make sure that I get you the. Oh, here it is. 80.830.
That's practically 81%. You're
almost
lying to yourself.
Almost.
You're going to be there before you know it.
I know. It can't come soon enough. I'm looking at 5 more paychecks after that.
And you get paid every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So that's 10 weeks. 10 weeks from now, that's going to be just in time for Christmas. Maybe it'll be a Christmas sale.
Yeah. It'd be really nice to... Oh, if there's a Black Friday sale, I bet I can get my wife talked into them. I've been checking out every single holiday and every so often just to see if they go on sale. Because if they go on sale, I think I can talk her into it. I mean, we're pretty close. Yeah. I mean, 10 out of 13K is not bad.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. But whatever. Hopefully it'll happen soon. I'd love to take some time over Christmas to install the axles and be able to make it on a snow run this year.
So how's your bike running?
It's running fine.
Oh, it hasn't broke this week?
Nope, not this week. I could just take that on a snow run.
There you go.
There you go.
Sounds cold.
Very cold.
I'll leave the heat on for you.
I got heated hand grips.
There you go.
So, Aaron, what have you been up to?
Well, thanks to Medical Gear Outfitters, shameless plug, I was able to finish my truck first aid kit, and I got it all put together and have my IFAC all put together. I do need to swap out the chest seal that I have in my IFAC for one of those hyphen minis or whatever they call that smaller hyphen chest seal. But beyond that, I am kitted out with everything except for sutures. So I'll ask for sutures for Christmas or something. Hopefully nobody needs to be sewn up between now and Christmas.
Needs to be? Nobody ever needs to be.
I've got staples. We'll use the staples.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I got the first aid kit done, got the IFAC done, and been slowly building a battle belt, which is a fun thing to do. An expensive thing, but a fun thing to do. I still haven't filled the doe tag with the landowner use preference tag that I get for my property. I'm really bummed about that. We have not seen a single doe on our property, and last year they crossed our property daily. So not sure what's going on there.
Is a feeder?
There's bucks. There's bucks on our property. Yes. In fact, there's more bucks this year than we've ever seen. So, and actually are allowed to get a buck tag this year for our property, but I didn't bother getting that because it was only like a 7-day thing and we weren't seeing bucks. So I don't know what's going on. It's 2020 apparently.
Can you legally set up a feeder on your property? Is that legal in Oregon?
Um, from what I hear, it's a gray area. So, yeah, I hear it's a gray area. I did find out that this year they're allowing you to, starting this year or starting next year, they're allowing you to plant crops that could be used to feed the animals. So
Wait, so food plots haven't been legal there?
I guess not.
Hmm.
Or that's what I'm hearing. So I don't know. I haven't looked into food plots, but yeah. I mean, I think people just do food plots even if it's not legal. I mean, how are they going to
Well,
say,
you're
well, that
you're growing it for your cows,
exactly that I don't have yet. So
your goats,
cows are coming. You
the
got to get
pigs.
the ghost cows.
You're growing it for the pigs, man,
Hey, that's it. Yeah. Pigs love alfalfa.
or corn.
Yeah. Besides that, I've just last night finalized my plans for my trip back to Nevada. I'm leaving in 6 days, 5 days. I'm leaving in 5 or 6 days. I don't know.
You had so
By
much
the
fun
time this
going back, huh?
I did, yeah. So we're gonna go back to that high altitude lake that I went skinny dipping in with Ben. Going to spend a night out in those crazy rock area that everybody wanted to check out. And then one more night we'll be staying in Oregon at Hot Springs. I'm not sure. I've got 2 different hot springs. I haven't totally decided which one we'll stay at for that one. So
Nice.
yeah, that's a plan. It's gonna be good times. What have you been up to, Ben?
I'm still drying off. I went camping this weekend, and I was expecting rain. So I was supposed to go. I left Saturday, and it was supposed to rain a little bit Sunday, and then it was going to be clear Monday morning. So I was gonna go Saturday. I left Saturday. Was planning on staying all day Sunday. Um, we got there, set up, and well, so where I was camping was last year when I got the stick in my that knocked out my safe neutral position switch exactly 1 year to the day, um, which is funny. Um, so I was camping up there, and the I had there was a ledge where you could see the Cedar Lake that I was gonna go camp at, and I was like, "Oh, this is a nice spot. Let's camp here." And then my son didn't want to camp there because it was too close to the edge. I was like, "Okay, whatever," and found another spot. And I should have realized that it'd be a bit windy because all the trees were only about 10 feet tall.
That's usually
And
a good
so
indication.
yeah, just a small indication. So I was like, whatever, let's camp here. This looks like a nice spot. There had been people who camped there before, and there's a few guests here and there. We went to bed. By 3 o'clock, I was up and I was trying to restrap down tarps. My awning had been flipped once. My my awning on my Forerunner had been flipped once. One of the guy lines on my tent ripped, and I repaired it and lost another one. I lost the roof by 8 o'clock. I'd lost the roof on the tent twice. The tent wall kept popping in because the guy line broke again. My awning was flipped again. The other awning had been ripped and bent one of the poles. It was kind of a rough night. So
Yeah.
I
This
was
was
like,
your Gazelle tent?
yeah, my Gazelle tent. And so more guy lines next time, stronger ones,
How
maybe.
how did it rip? Like it just pulled it so hard that the rope broke on the guy line?
Yeah, and it was like the factory guy line, which isn't. It's like a nylon. It's not paracord.
Still, I feel like that would be a fair amount of weight.
It was the winds were probably 40, 50 miles per hour. I mean, considering all, I'm like more guy lines. My awning, I had guy lines on, and it ripped the stakes out of the ground. So I don't know. It was a rough night. Everything got wet, but I was packed up by 8 o'clock and we were gone. I was like, I'm done with
Sounds like this just needs to be a place you don't go back to if it's damaging your rig and now damaging your camping equipment. You just don't need to go back to this place.
I'm gonna try and go. I'm gonna have a redemption trip. We'll see.
Oh man.
But
Alright.
I'm obviously gonna go when the weather's a lot nicer. Yeah, it was. I don't know. But the cool thing is the wife is getting on board with a rooftop tent and a new.
I don't know how a rooftop tent would have helped you.
Well, I
Hey,
don't know
don't
either.
spoil it, Jeremy. It doesn't
But-
matter. If she's on board, she's on board.
well, here's the thing: is she said our setup and takedown took too long. So
I
she
don't
wants
know
to-
how a rooftop tent's going to help you.
I
I
thought the
don't
gazelles
know.
were supposed to be fast, but
They are
whatever.
super fast, but it's all the other gear we have too. But
Yeah.
rooftop tents, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Shh.
Yeah, and then when
Are you gonna get that?
when it's
Are you
not
gonna
any
get that one I
faster,
tagged you in
that's
Facebook
it.
today?
There's a good chance of it. I gotta check some things. Because
For $450, you can't go wrong with
Oh
that.
man, you can't go wrong with
for
that.
less, and I'll tell you guys after the show why.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're going to be building your own.
No. But yeah, so I'm literally I spent all day drying and washing stuff off. Like my tent was just covered in mud, and from the wind, like it was literally throwing mud against the tent. So it was like, okay, I'm good. So I had to rinse everything off today, and dry out gear. It's all still drip drying in the garage. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
Coy, you've been awful quiet back there. What we
Coy?
like to do is
Cole?
have everyone Cole, sorry, not Coy, Cole. We like to have everyone make fun of Ben when he talks about the stuff he's doing. We forgot to tell you about that before the show. Sorry.
Sounds like a train wreck to me, but it sounds like.
Hot mess.
What
Hot
have you been up to in the last week? Have you done any outdoors stuff?
Yeah, we I live in Utah, so here in Utah, Saturday opened the deer hunt for everybody for the rifle, and then the week before that I was elk hunting. So I've been busy for the last couple of weeks, but I'm not quite as cool as you guys and have the badass tents. I take my 28-foot travel trailer and go sleep in it where it's warm and I don't get rained on, and that kind of stuff, because I'm not as crazy, I guess you could say. But I've been looking at a lot of those, but I just haven't pulled the plug on that one yet.
Well, if I had a 28-foot travel trailer, I don't think I would either.
Yeah, I don't think I'd go
No,
backwards.
It's nice and warm. I don't have to. Yeah, I set it up with solar and everything, so I don't have to turn a generator on. It's wonderful.
That's
I
awesome.
stay nice and warm.
You probably just can't get it in all the places though that we go.
No, and I've got if you follow my company Team POI, we got a TAC bus. We take it a lot of places. I converted a short bus, I guess you could say, into it's a mobile shooting thing that we go all over the country and shoot in shoots and do demos and stuff like that. And it's got beds and all that. So we're in it a lot. It's got a roof rack on it so we can shoot thermal and suppressed stuff. And then I've got Jeeps and everything. So I still do a lot of the off-roading stuff. I just not as much as you guys probably.
We just talked about short buses in our last episode. We talked about the apocalypse vehicles, and short buses came up. Yeah.
It was a spendy endeavor. I never would have thought that I would have spent that much money on it, but Cryptek Outdoor Group was awesome. They wrapped it for me, so it's completely wrapped in Cryptek. And then I've got a few awesome sponsors. Some sponsors sponsored it, So going down the road, I either get flipped off or people are taking pictures and videos. Well, depends on if they really like guns or not. But it's one of those things, like it's got bunks in the back, it's got a couch, it's got a kitchenette, it's got a big toolbox in it where people, if they break their guns when we're at a match or something, it's got everything built into it. So when we're going down the road, it's got inverters in it, it's got everything. So when we go to matches, we just stay in the bus, and I I got a Traeger for it, so we put a Traeger on the back of it, and it seems like it's kind of the
Nice.
place where everybody comes and hangs out, and we just have a
Yeah.
good time. It's a blast.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good time.
Dang, that's where I would be hanging out.
Yep. Smoked meats and firearms. You can't go wrong.
Oh, it's a blast. We have a lot of fun.
Hey guys, we're looking to reach more listeners. We're going to start reading Apple iTunes reviews on air. If you hear yours, send us a message with your address, and we'll send you an Off-Road Podcast sticker. You can find all of our social media by just searching our name. Now, go hit that subscribe button.
Also, don't forget to check out Patriot Patch and their great selection of patches and shirts and stickers, cleaning mats, and all the other great things. Signs, they sell signs. Ben's kind of wearing one of their shirts. It's green, so you can't see it really well. You can see the writing on his shirt. Yeah, they've got some great stuff. I've got this month's sticker and the artist proof for their Patch of the Month Club. I don't have the patch because it's on my headliner. Where else would it be?
That's okay.
Jeremy's
I
gonna
got the patch.
Oh, he doesn't have a headliner because he's got a Jeep. So
Yep. No
he's got
headliner.
to stick them on the wall of his garage.
Yep.
So
Sounds
yeah,
about right.
make sure to check out Patriot Patch and their awesome stuff.
The news is brought to you by PowerTank, the ultimate mobile onboard air system for performance, versatility, and reliability. They are your source for all air-related accessories. Check them out at powertank.com.
So we've got an awesome story for you here. Jeep
Awesome
Wrangler.
story.
No. All things considered, awesome story. Jeep Wrangler total after torrential off-road trail crash. Crashed on Black Bear Pass. The engine was off, the e-brake was on, and they all failed. And that Jeep went for what we could say is a roll.
The thing that I didn't see in the article was whether or not it was a manual or an automatic, and whether or
Yeah.
not it was in gear.
I have to assume that because that they mentioned the e-brake and nothing else, that it was probably a manual. That's my guess.
And it probably wasn't in gear.
Yeah.
Correct. That probably wouldn't have happened if it was in gear.
No.
Yeah.
I would think not.
The terrible thing is the driver is out of the vehicle. A 23-year-old woman and 2 dogs were in the Jeep. The woman got ejected. She lived. And one of the dogs is still missing, though I thought I had heard the dog was found.
Oh, that would be good news. What are the chances she's ever going four-wheeling with this guy again?
Yeah, was this a date or his girlfriend?
I don't know.
It doesn't
Or
say
wife.
how they are related
Yeah.
or know each other. So
All I can say is that is one crunched Jeep.
yeah, it's probably a good thing that she was ejected because
Oh yeah, she wouldn't have survived.
maybe yeah.
That I kind of saw something like that in '97 when I was at the Jeep Safari. It was I remember it because it was one of the very first years I went to the Jeep Safari in Moab, and a Samurai was going up Lion's Back, and the Samurai lost everything and went off it. And I think that was one of the last years they ever let anybody go up it, but I'm not. But it killed everybody in it too.
Oh man. Yeah. I think Lion's Back is private property, so they were able to shut that down.
Yeah, it was crazy, especially when it gets wet. That stuff just turns to totally different stuff.
Yeah, that I tried to look at that Jeep to see if there's anything salvageable, and maybe that D-ring in the rear receiver, that's about it. I don't think there's anything
Oh no,
salvageable
that
on
spring
that
that
rig.
was on the ground. That spring looked good.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that spring had all of its sprung left in it. Yeah,
Yeah. You think I could salvage some axles?
probably not. They're probably bent.
They probably
They're
were bent.
probably good.
They're probably
Yep.
bent before. Is that what you're going to say, Ben?
Yep.
Well, we could joke about this because the people didn't die. So
Yeah.
at,
Speaking of
thankfully-
bent axles, our buddy Dan Cronin, he's having some axle troubles.
oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and his
Yeah,
JK.
weren't they just down in Nevada?
So I reached out to a couple of those guys to invite them on my trip, and they're like, "Oh, we're actually going this weekend." So yeah, they were already heading down there, and their trip turned into a slop show. Apparently, it must have rained, and they got into some mud that turned into clay, and it was some nasty looking mud in some of those pictures. They even had to winch up some of the roads because they were just too sloppy.
I will say Dan is running 37s on a Dana 30 though, so that's not advisable.
he rolling the dice there.
That's how you
Yeah.
strong the axle, right?
I don't even know if his axles if he has it gusseted or sleeved or anything even.
Maybe
I
he's
don't
just
think
waiting
so.
for it to go, so he has an excuse to replace it.
Maybe.
I think he's on open though also.
He is open,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Living on the edge.
Warren Industries. They produced the first recreational winch in 1959 and lead the industry with their dedication to quality and reliability. When you dig yourself in deep, make sure you have the right tools to get yourself out. Get Warren equipped and go where others can't. Now, let's get ready for adventure and head into our main topic.
Well, tonight we have Cole from the Long Range Addicts Shooting Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. I got introduced to Cole through our buddy Sean, the president and host of We Like Shooting. So Cole, one of our fun things we do here is the Fast 5 Facts. So answer just off the top of your head. So new or old vehicle?
For my off-road vehicle
Yes, sir.
or for buying one? For buying
Off-road
one?
vehicle.
What's your preference?
I probably, I don't know.
These
I've
are
got
some
an
big
old Jeep, so I wouldn't mind having a new one. Just to say I've got one of each.
Summer or winter camping?
Summer. I hate freaking cold. Summer.
Rock, sand, snow, or mud?
Rocks and sand.
Favorite vehicle brand?
That one's, I don't know. I don't really have a favorite because I've owned so many of them. Right now I own Dodges, so I'll just stick with the Dodges because I want that new Dodge that just came out, the Raptor Killer.
TRX.
I want one bad.
And retire?
Toyos. I always had Toyos.
Solid tire choice.
I had them on my diesels and my Jeeps, so I liked them.
All right. Well, we got to start off talking a little bit off-road with you. So how did you get started off-roading?
I don't know if you guys have ever heard the name Craig Stump. You know who Craig Stump is?
Sounds familiar, but not.
He was one of the original founders of U-Rock. So when I got growing up here in Utah, a lot of my friends did it, and we tried to. You guys are laughing at.
We're messing up the notes.
Oh, I got you. So I grew up here in Utah, of course, southern Utah. And he was one of them that kind of started U-Rock. He was big into like the rock race. He's one of them that started the rock racing, seeing some of his Jeeps that had Corvette engines in them and just flying up trails. And, the Atlas 2s were badass. And, just watching those guys kind of do that. That's what got me personally kind of into it. My first vehicle was everybody's going to kind of laugh, but it's what I could get was a Chevy K5 Blazer. And I completely pimped it out. And it just kind of spiraled from there. I love doing it. One of my best friends' dad had a Jeep. So we'd go down to the Easter Jeep Safari in Moab and just little things compounded into getting it.
So what was the very first rig you took off road?
The K5. I actually had to park it after a while because it wouldn't go a quarter of the places the other ones did. And it was one of those learning experiences. You build something and you're like, well, I think this will work. And then you actually go with people that do it. You're like, all right, I'm way off freaking beat. So it works the same thing in rifles, but you learn really quick what works and what doesn't work. And that's kind of where I changed.
And what are you driving now?
The Jeep that I have now is an XJ. So it's a 90. Is it a 94? It's either 94 or 97. I can't think off the top of my head. I bought it. It was one of those that I wanted forever. It's a XJ Sport, the Cherokee Sport. So you can throw everybody in it and go. It's lifted and it's only got 33s on it. I've been trying to figure out, how to get more articulation and everything out of it. I've been looking at like different springs for the back and the reversible shackles and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of learning. With all my other hobbies, it's one of those that just kind of slowly gets a little bit of money here and there, but I love doing it. And the couple of the last hunts that I've been on, everybody's like, well, we need a side-by-side. And I do have a side-by-side, but I'm like, no, I want to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to take my Jeep. So we took our Jeep up some stuff and I had some people crying and, you take them up on side hills and you laugh and you guys know how it is when new people get in Jeeps and everybody gets the giggles and everything else. So I love my Jeep though.
So what's your most embarrassing moment on the trail?
Probably when Craig Stump's like 14-year-old daughter showed us all up when she crawled up a hill with an Atlas II and then showed us how she could shift the back end, front end, started walking around stuff, and the rest of us were down there peeing our pants, and she was making us all look bad. That was a long time ago, but it's one of those that stick in your mind. Like, well, man card, here you go. It's gone. You can take it now. But yeah, some of them girls, man, they're badass. What's her name? Jessie. What's her name? Jessie Combs. I remember growing up watching her. She was just one of those badass girls that, took a lot of craziness that, I watched her. What show was she on that I watched? I watched it like every Saturday morning. What was it? The
Extreme 4x4?
All Girls
Extreme 4x4. Yep. I'd wake up, instead of watching cartoons, I'd wake up every morning and watch Extreme 4x4. I loved it with Jessie Combs. And then that stuff was always fun to me. It's just one of those things. I'm that kind of guy that has too many freaking hobbies and I love to boat. One of my favorite places in the world is to be on the water. So I've got a boat. So that takes, I'm broke because of that alone. And then I've got a really expensive gun habit and then a Jeep habit and a side-by-side habit. And then it just, you guys know how it is. It's just hard to keep up with all the crap you've got going on from day to day. But I would love to eventually take my XJ and turn it into a badass rig. But I honestly didn't buy it for rock crawling though, because it probably wouldn't be, the very first idea to buy for a rock crawler. It was more for a hunting rig because I hunt a lot of predators like coyotes and stuff. So it was kind of one of those things we could take about anywhere and still be comfortable doing it. I freeze my ass off in my side-by-side hunting coyotes. And as I said before, I don't like the cold. So I like some with a heater in it. I can get in and get warm every once in a while.
Yeah, we've had Ian Johnson on our show, who was the co-host with Jessie Combs. He's a great guy. Real fun to talk with.
Mm-hmm. A lot of those guys are down to earth too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
I was fortunate enough to meet Jessie Combs at the Gambler 500. It was, although very briefly, but I got to meet her. She's a nice gal.
Yeah.
We're doing a build right now on a gun for BJ Baldwin. BJ's a stud, down to earth. He's crazy to watch if you watch his social media, but he's one of those guys. It's just, he's a million places at a 1,000 different times. And it's just, it's crazy watching those guys. So they all started somewhere like the rest of us did. So it's cool. It's cool to see how some of them kind of grow up from nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have a biggest win on the trail?
Not really, because most of it is just, it hasn't been trail riding. I did when I was in the Army. I was a recruiter, and one of the things we did was we did an event in Moab, and I went down there and I didn't have anything to drive. And one of the other recruiters had a Cherokee there, and he goes, "Just go rent a Jeep and let's see what we can do with a rented Jeep." And I was stupid at the time. I'm like, I didn't even think about how I was going to bring this Jeep back if I would have rolled it into a hole somewhere. But I went and rented just a stock Jeep, and some of the places we took that stock Jeep, I mean, I wish I still have the pictures from it. All you can see sky and all you can see is the rock. And there was guys standing on the front of it trying to hold it down from rolling and stuff. And I'm like, man, it's a good thing the people that rented it to me probably didn't see some of that crap. But it was just one of those things. We just spur of the moment wanted to go have fun, so we went and rented a Jeep and went and had fun. But I think that's what a lot of people are doing on side-by-sides now.
Yeah, they definitely are.
So where's your favorite place that you've wheeled?
Either Sand Hollow here in Utah or Moab, one of the two. I've been to both quite a few times, and it's just it's one of those places. I can go wheel in the mountains about anywhere, but there's only a few places on earth that you can get that kind of wheeling in, and those are the two. There's a couple places here in central Utah that are really cool. There's one just a couple, like an hour away from my house. It destroys Jeeps when people take them up, but it's one of those fun things to see who can get the furthest, and then you just need to make sure that you're going to have enough money set aside to go back and fix everything you break when you're done with it.
So, is there any places that you haven't gone that you want to go?
I would like to go like up into Montana and Idaho. There's just so much country and it's beautiful. There's a lot of trails. There's a lot of stuff to do up there, like in the Sawtooth Wilderness. Some of those places I would love to go up in there. That would probably be on a bucket list. Plus, I'm a hunter, so it's just a cool place to go. And there's wolves and everywhere else. There's a couple places in Canada I wouldn't mind going as well, but it's just one of those things. I just got to find time, and I can't seem to ever do that. So
I've been to Montana too many times to count now, finally. And I gotta say, it is some beautiful country. It is.
It is. They don't call it Big Sky for nothing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what else you do here. You host a podcast called Long Range Addicts. And so let's talk about that a little bit. What do people consider long range nowadays?
It depends. There's two facets of long range shooting. There's ELR, which is extreme long range. That's depending on who you ask. It's between 800 and 900 yards plus. They're setting new world records all the time. 2-mile shots, 3-mile shots, 4-mile shots. It's just one of those things that everyone is stretching the envelope when it comes to rifles. And most of the stuff that we shoot, on the competitive side, it's in that 300 to 400 range to 13, 14, 1700. 1760 is a mile. So we shoot anywhere between 300 and 400 to up to a mile on targets. It's growing like crazy. With the NRL and the PRS and everything else, but it's kind of one of those things that it's growing, and we're just trying to keep up with it. It's extremely popular, but it's one of those things. It's kind of like you guys, though. One of those nice things about the Off-Road podcast is you aren't controlled as much as the Long Range Addicts podcast, because we're gun based. Ooh, guns bad. That type of thing. So, but it's just a podcast bringing a lot of people on the know. I've been in the industry for almost a decade, so we bring a lot of knowledgeable people on, and we talk about stuff like you guys do. So it's kind of one of those things where a lot of people from beginners to experts can come listen and hopefully learn something about shooting. I bring a lot of industry experts in, and we talk a lot about, how to be good at what you do type thing. '80s band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's your personal best on distance?
I think it was 2,600 yards. So, 1760 is a mile. And we've got a few targets. So we've got a private range here in Utah that we have set up. We do a lot of training with it and stuff like that. And we've got some more that we're working with. But yeah, I mean, I've got a Lapua. I've got a lot of different guns. It just depends on what you want to shoot and how far you want to shoot it. I've got a 223 that I shoot 1,000 yards all the time. And it's just one of those things that the more work you put into it, the better you are and the better you get at it. But that's another one of those things that I've got too many hobbies, so I really need to start putting some more time into it if I'm going to keep competing. But it's how life is.
Yeah. Are you talked about training and stuff, and you got a place to train. Are you training any of our troops or anything like that, or just like regular old Joes?
We've trained with some of them. Some of them we can't necessarily really talk about. There's a lot of tier one, like specialized units out there that come train here in Utah all the time, because Utah is actually a lot like parts of Afghanistan and different things with terrain and different things. So we have a lot of that stuff. I've worked with a lot of those guys over the past little bit just because of the marketing company that I own and run. But most of the people that I'm helping right now are hunters, and I'm not the biggest name in the shooting industry. I'm just one of those guys that like to try and give back. I know what I know, and I try to help spread that knowledge. I've taken a lot of people to the range and, taught them the basics and let them understand some of that things, because when you get into shooting, it's mind numbing, the stuff you have to know when it comes to variables like wind and, ballistics and different things like that. So it really turns a lot of people off just because they don't understand it. It's a lot to think about. But, when you're out shooting a pistol, the thing you've really got to focus on is when you draw, put your gun on target and shoot. I mean, there's not a whole lot that you have to do, and you just keep being repetitive with that, and that's your training. When it comes to long range shooting, it's understanding wind, knowing what the wind is doing between you and your target. On a mile shot, there could be two different winds that it goes through depending on, different variables. And it's just cool because it really makes your brain think about how to engage something, how to get in a certain position to shoot at something. And a lot of military and a lot of police units that I've worked with have really started getting into the competitive side because it kind of gives them an edge when it comes to understanding how to set up and make certain shots. One of the coolest places I probably shot was with TacFlow. They're a training company out of Texas. We went and shot in the Amway Center in Orlando. So we actually got to shoot inside the arena, which was neat. They put up specialized traps. We shot from up in the areas. There's a couple pictures that people always see. They've gone viral of, the overwatches at the Super Bowls and stuff, where you've got the sniper hiding up there. And that's who trains a lot of those guys. So it was cool to see how those things work and how they set up, on a chair, and how they can hurry and find a target and engage the target and do different things. It's cool to see how a lot of those guys train. So I've been very blessed to work with a lot of those types of people.
That's awesome. You kind of mentioned training a lot of hunters. How far are hunters trying to stretch it out these days?
That's it's kind of a loaded question. I think the bigger question is, how far should the hunters really shoot?
What's ethical?
What is ethical? That is the biggest thing, because I've seen a lot of these guys. They're like, oh, I can hit a piece of steel at 800 yards. Okay, how many times can you hit that piece of steel? Especially when you're under pressure, when there's an elk and there's different winds and different things. But, most people nowadays, 1,000 yards and in's a long shot. 1,000 yards on an animal's, I still try not to do that. I'll still try and get as close as I possibly can to that animal before I make that shot, just because it's one of those things that it's a fight within the hunting community. what is ethical and what is the furthest shot you should really take. And to me, it depends on the person and how much they've really trained. With optics and with rifles and with ballistics and everything, the gun can shoot that far easy. It's all on the person. So that's kind of the biggest thing.
So what type of target sizes are you using? Are you going like man size, 12-inch?
That's all dependent on ranges. So what we try to do, the ideal that we try to set up when we're competing is 2 MOA. So, at 18 or at 800 yards, it's a 16-inch plate. At 1,000 yards, it's a 20-inch plate. You just take that and times it. An MOA is, 1 minute of angle. So you try and keep it within, not getting too big, because you can put a giant target out there and hit it all day and that doesn't do anything. Just makes you feel good because you keep hearing it ding. What we're trying to do is shrink the sizes, or we're trying to put strain on the shooter, give them a little bit bigger target, put strain on the shooter, and then make them engage that target. So there's different variables that come into when we plan out how to shoot, but it's just one of those things. What do they say? Yeah. 400 yards with a 6.5 Creed's not a bad shot. Anything, especially not on a pronghorn, anything. I mean, if it's an elk or something like that, it's a different story because elk are tough SOBs, but it's just one of those things. But understanding the ballistics of the rifle and the bullet, that's everything when it comes to that. So everybody doesn't understand the different things that go into a lot of this stuff until they really start digging. And that's why we've started another side to the Long Range Addicts called Long Range Tactics. It's reviews. It's a group, like a forum type group on Facebook, where people can come ask these type of questions so they don't get confused. Because in a lot of the groups now, people will go ask questions like, should I shoot this far? And they get attacked because everybody's a freaking typer sniper and they think they're the badass until you actually get them out from behind their freaking keyboard and they're really not badasses. One of those things. But we kind of created this group where everybody could really feel comfortable in and coming asking questions. And I've got a couple military guys in the group that are reviewers. I've got a couple law enforcement guys. So it kind of breaks it up. So people have questions. They can really come in and feel comfortable about asking a lot of these questions. And, it kind of gives everybody a place to come show their cool stuff. Hey, I shot this deer, or I shot, this match and I placed this. It just gives everybody kind of a cool place to come talk. But that's the Long Range Tactics.
Typer sniper. That's the first I've ever heard that. I love it.
Freaking idiots.
So what's some basic gear if someone's just getting into this? They want to start shooting long range. Let's say they've got a chunk of property that they can stretch it out to half a mile. Choosing quality steel. I mean, that's the thing is you can go get a piece of steel anywhere and hang it up on a plate. I like to use the MGM targets. They've got a plate that sits on top of a T-post. So you could actually use a fence line somewhere if you wanted. Sits on top of a T-post. The target rotates on it so it doesn't fall off. There's a lot of cool options out there for target range if you're going to set it up. And then understanding ballistics, like Kestrel meters, geoballistics, some of those that will actually, once you type in the variables of the thing, will help you get your math right. Because I've been doing this for a long time and I still can't do it in my head. I have to have a freaking Kestrel. But so he says, Michigan hunter most of my life, that 100 to 150 yards. So the cool thing about that, and something that we've been working with a lot of people on recently, is hanging smaller and smaller targets. So at 100 yards, hang a really small target, try to engage it really quick. One of the big things that's cool about back east is the 22 series. The 22 series is what's really taken off and has been growing like crazy, because you can shoot a 22 match in 100 yards. The NRL 22 is one of the biggest. It gives you the opportunity. A lot of people, when I worked at Voodoo, were actually selling their centerfire rifles so they could go compete with a 22, which was really cool. But it's just one of those things. It's another variable to add to it. I've got a 22 right there.
It's a Voodoo 22. It's probably one of the most expensive 22s ever made, and I think that combo right there is $4,000 or $5,000. So it just depends on, how much money you want to invest in it. But the 22 thing's cool because you can start off with a budget build of like a little Ruger 1022 or something like that, and you can compete. And they put it in tiers so that you're not competing against a gun like that. You're competing against something that's like yours. So there's a lot of cool new things for a lot of people. And that the 22 side's been really big for like women and kids to get more involved in the outdoors and shooting and stuff like that. Because you bring a woman, a lady, or a youth shooter to one of these big PRS matches, and it's overwhelming for guys. So, you want something that everybody can kind of come into and be happy with and enjoy.
Yeah, and it's going to be more inexpensive. I picked up a 22 250 for my 8-year-old boy, thinking it'd be a fun gun to start shooting with, and I realized it's going to cost me $1 a round for him to pop those off, and I haven't told him about the rifle yet.
That's when you reload. Reloading's everything when it comes to that. You're a lot less, but right now you can't find reloading components either. So that's why when I tell everybody, if you're gonna buy a rifle for a youth shooter or a lady or something like that, get them like a 6.5 Creed. The reason why is because the 6.5 Creedmoor has a lot more factory options. It's got a little bit more power. Your recoil isn't nearly as bad, so they can still manage the recoil, but it's something they can grow into. It's a good deer rifle. It's a good elk rifle at certain distances. It's a good rifle they compete with if they want to go shoot a little match. It's just one of those things. The 22 250 is a great cartridge, but it's a barrel burning cartridge too because they shoot so fast. So it's just there's so many variables that you want to add up when you go buy your rifle for the first time. But a 223 is a good one for a kid too. So there's a lot of, we could go down another rabbit hole there. It's just one of those things.
Well, while we're talking about it, we were going to talk about reloading / hand loading later. Let's talk about that a little bit. So, other than the cost, what does reloading or hand loading get you?
So hand loading gets you more precise loads. I mean, it's like a custom concoction built for your rifle and your rifle only because, especially in production rifles, the chambers are a little bit different in each one. Everything's a little bit different. So you want to set it up so that it's exactly built and it's the most accurate to your gun. Now, in the last 5 to 10 years, ammo companies have made extreme strides in accurizing ammo. Ammo is extremely accurate now for a lot of different options. I shoot factory ammo through like my 6.5 PRC and different things. Hornady's done a phenomenal job on making those extremely accurate. However, if you really want to make them accurate, you want to try a different bullet or something, it kind of gives you the ability to go try different things. I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole there too as well with, hey, I've got 7 different bullets. I want to see what shoots. And it's one of those things. I recommend everybody start with, their top 3 choices of bullets and just start playing with it. But then you can adjust the seating length, the overall length. You can adjust powder. You can adjust velocity because a lot of the factory ammunition is controlled by a thing called SAMI, which is a spec that they have to hit for pressure and velocity. So they can only go so fast. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Alpha just released their new brass that goes up to even higher PSIs, which I wouldn't recommend doing, but they did it just so it doesn't blow up in you or in your face, But there's so many strides going on right now with precision and different things. But reloading costs quite a bit of money to go into. You've got to have a press, you got to have reloading dice, you got to have powder, you got to have bullets. So reloading is a very expensive thing in my mind to get into. Once you get into, then it starts paying itself back off and you start getting it. But don't think you're just going to go into reloading and you're going to be like, oh, I'm set because I'm saving so much money. No, you probably should have went and bought ammo. If you've got one rifle and it shoots just fine with the factory ammo, just do that. But if you've got multiple guns, or, a lot of people say it's therapeutic. They like to sit in the reloading room and start finicking with stuff and doing stuff. A lot of people do it. I did it for a profession for 6 years. So, it's not as fun to me anymore. But for most people, they really like it.
Yeah, I think once you take anything that you like and turn it into work, it has a way of souring it.
Yeah, like I said, I've been in this industry for almost a decade. I started out with Remington Outdoor Company, which Remington, of course, just went bankrupt again, and they gone. But, it's sad seeing a 200 plus year old company getting destroyed like it has with the people that have been running it. It's sad to see. But, I came into it and, I've kind of grown with it and done my thing and kind of, gone my direction. I'm like a snake. I'm all over the place, but it's kind of cool to see where this industry's going, but it's also sucky to see how bad this industry's impacted by politics and everything else. We could get into a whole nother podcast there, but that's life. That's how it is.
That it is. So what would be kind of an ideal starter platform for somebody who's trying to get into long range shooting?
The biggest question you've got to ask yourself is how much money you're going to spend, because it's going to be expensive if you buy the right equipment. We have a saying in the gun communities: buy once, cry once. That means don't go out and buy a whole bunch of junk and slap it on there and expect it to perform something that, it's like what you were talking about with axles. Don't go buy cheap axles. Go buy the axles you want, save up your money and do it. It's kind of the same thing with guns. There's a lot of awesome factory guns out there now. Bergara's making some. Savage is a step up. Ruger stepped their game up. All of them are slowly starting to step their game up on that end. Most of the guns I deal with start at about $2,500 and go up. But that's, one of those things that people, they know what they want and that's what they're going to pay for to get it. But for most people, they could go buy a Savage, they could go buy a Ruger, and they're probably going to be 100% happy with it. Put a good scope on it and away you go.
So what are some fundamental skills that you need right out the door?
Fundamental skills? Probably buying the equipment to understand what it's going to do, like kestrels or different things like that. That gets expensive. The biggest thing you need to do is, how to shoot your gun, know what it does at distances, and get a good scope that tracks. So if you have to dial or anything, it's just little things, buying the right optics, buying the right gun, buying the right cartridge for what you're intending to do. Now, if you're going to go out and you're just going to hunt rabbits and you want a plink, the 223 or the 5.56 is probably what you want. If you want something that you might be able to shoot a deer with, and hunt coyotes and different things, 22-250 is a good option. They'll kill deer all day long, but a 223 will too. So you've just got to kind of understand what you want to do with the intended rifle or whatever else, but and just kind of go from there. But it's just like, a Jeep platform or anything else. You got to have a solid platform and then build on it and then understand what you're going to be doing with it. Are you just going to be hunting, laying on your stomach, or, training and doing different things like that? But there's a lot of cool options to training and doing different things like that now. It's even from 5 years ago, it's completely changed to where you can go get information now on what you really need to do to become better and how to get involved with it.
What's a great scope size to start with? It seems like 10 years ago, everybody was all 3x9. I'm a hunter. I've got a 3x9, but now they're making some serious scopes that go long distances.
Right. And that is really dependent on how far you're going to shoot. Most of the hunters now, they like the 14 powers, the 18 powers, somewhere in there that gets them a little bit more, and we can go into first focal plane, second focal plane. That's a whole nother topic there. But, if you're hunting in Kentucky where your longest shot's going to be 200 yards, a 3x9 is probably perfect for you. Out here in Utah, I want to be able to zoom in on what I'm trying to see, because I want to make sure that I want to, hit the animal in the right spot, different things. And that is a problem with going back to the ethicals. I mean, you can go buy a 7-35 Night Force that you can zoom in at 35 power and see everything you want to see. But it's probably not a good thing for most people to be able to do that. Because they're like, oh, that deer looks really close. Let's just take the shot and see what happens. And they end up wounding the animal or something. So it's kind of a loaded question. But to me, the Leupold's, and a lot of them come a long ways to that 12 to 14 to 18 power seems to be really popular. I run a 25 power on some of mine, but the only time I ever use a 25 power is I'm sighting in, because I want to zoom in on the target at 100 yards to make sure that it's dialed 100%. And then when I'm hunting, I zoom it back out so I get a bigger field of view. And I try to stay in that 14 to 18 power range when I'm hunting, unless it's thick, and then I can zoom it clear down to 5 power or whatever. That's the cool thing, is they've got a lot bigger room for zoom in something like that.
So I know a lot of the caliber that you choose is going to depend on what you want to do with it, but what's the best to stick with? Are you looking at like semi-spec rounds, or is it better to go with some of the Wildcats?
That's all dependent on if you're going to reload. If you're going to reload, you can do whatever you want. And the Wildcats, there's going to be less reloading information for them. But with the groups and forums on Facebook, there's, I just built a 6GT, which is a completely new cartridge. And there was a lot of information on a forum or a group in Facebook, and that's where I pulled my information from. So you can go both ways. If it's a new person and you're just trying to get into it, that's what I keep saying, like 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6 Creedmoor. Try and stick around some of those cartridges that have a lot of factory offerings for them, because you can go buy 2 or 3 different boxes of ammo, and they're not extremely expensive. And then you can go try those different factory ammos and see what really shoots in your gun, and then you can go for it. And, most of those new guns like the Savages and the Rugers, they're sub $600 guns. They're not that expensive. So you have a little bit of room to where you can put money on ammo and optics and triggers or whatever else you want to update on them. But to me, the Wildcats are awesome, but you've got to understand reloading 100% before you go hurt yourself, because I've seen a lot of people, even in the last couple of years, think they knew what they were doing. They put the wrong powder in a gun. They've did the wrong thing. It's blown up on them. It's hurt them. It's not something that you want to play with lightly. There's a lot of cool companies out there as well, like Unknown Munitions and Clay's Cartridge and some of those, that will actually build custom loads for you. So you can say, hey, I just bought this 28 Nosler. I want a custom load for it. They'll build a couple loads, send you the loads. You try them out, see what shoots the best, and then they'll custom load, hand load a thing. But then you're getting into a little bit more money with the custom hand load that somebody else builds that you could have done yourself. But it's an option, which is cool, because a lot of people don't have time to hand load, and they don't have time to do that. So it's just, there's a lot of options that have come out in the last few years that people are now taking advantage of, which is really cool.
Now, working in the firearms industry for the time that I have, barrel lengths, I've seen everything from a 3-inch barrel all the way up to 27 inches, just in the Black Rifle platform. You got any wisdom to throw down with that on what to go when you're choosing your barrel length?
So barrel length is it's kind of a loaded thing, and a lot of it depends on dwell time. It depends on burn rate. Burn rate's a big word that I'll use, because the powder can only burn so far before it goes out. So if you've got a barrel that's too long and the burn rate only lasts halfway through the barrel, it'll actually start slowing the bullet down by the time it exits the barrel. So you've got to be very careful. You don't want to go too long, but you don't want to go too short to where it doesn't burn enough and you don't get the velocity. You've got to find the happy medium. Like on a 6.5 Creedmoor, we did a lot of testing. The most efficient barrel length is 22-inch barrel. A lot of people still build a 20-inch, 28-inch 6.5 Creed, which is fine. But depending on the powder and the burn rate depends on the velocity they're going to get out of it. It's like on a 5.56 or 2.23. There's a reason why the barrels are shorter, and same thing with 300 Blackout. Some of those cartridges where 18 inches, probably the longest you want to go, because you're trying to push a great big bullet with not a whole lot of powder behind it. So you've got to understand, a lot of guys are like, oh, I'm going to shoot, a 30 nozzler and I got to have a 36-inch barrel and it's going to get me a lot of velocity. To a certain point, it will, but you've got to understand where that happy tipping point is. But, for 5.56, that 18-inch, 20-inch, 16-inch, there's a reason why they build ARs in those cartridges. But, you can get into gas dwell times and different things like that. But, yeah, I mean, that's another science that you've got to look into when you're doing it. But again, there's a lot of information out there on the web of, hey, in a 308, this is what you should do. In a 6.5, this is what you should do. There's a lot of stuff. Once you start researching, you're gonna be like, okay, I understand that now. But just because you can have a 28-inch barrel doesn't mean you should have a 28-inch barrel. If that answers your question.
So, what's your go-to muzzle device?
Suppressors all day long.
Amen.
I don't mess around. I use suppressors. I love brakes when it comes to competing. I shoot a lot of muzzle brakes, like the Area 419s, the Inside Arms. We're building a new one at Boring Rifles. But when it comes to straight up, like my 338 Lapua, I had it at the range the other day and I let a couple people shoot it. I have a Silencer Co. Harvester big bore on it, and it is amazing to me the noise that it knocks out and the recoil that it takes out. People are like, holy cow, shooting that Lapua is like shooting a 308. I'm like, yeah, it's the suppressor. Plus I can shoot it without hearing it, hearing protection. So if I'm hunting, I'm not blowing my eardrums out. My ears are ringing and my eyesight's going crazy because it's so loud. And 100%. Yeah, I do a lot of work with Silencer Co., so that's why I bring them up. But suppressors are, to me, the only shitty thing is you got to go through all the NFA stuff, wait the 6 to 8 months. You got to do the tax stamps. You got to do everything else. But trust me, it's worth every penny once you do it, because you can buy a 30 cal suppressor and it'll work on everything from 30 cal down. So you can shoot it on a 5.56 if you really want. It's not the most efficient on a 5.56, but it'll work.
Well, Cole, really appreciate you taking the time out to hop on our show, share yourself and your podcast a little bit. If our listeners want to listen to you more, where can they find you? And include like Facebook and Instagram and all that other fun stuff.
So on Facebook and Instagram, it's Long Range Addicts Podcast. If they want to get in the group and really start talking, it's Long Range Tactics. It's got its own Facebook and Instagram and website and all that stuff too. So like if they want to kind of ask a lot more questions depending on what they want to know, that's a good place for it to do it. But yeah, Long Range Addicts, we do it every Wednesday night, or at least I try to. Hunting season screwed me, so I'm trying to just do it whenever I can. But yeah.
Well, to all our listeners out there, write in and tell us about what gun you like to shoot long range. If you write into us, we'll pick one winner at random and we'll send you out a Patriot Patch gift card. Also, we want to thank our listeners, people who listen to us every week on the podcast, the folks who join in with us live on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys. And if you like us that much, make sure you're sharing us with your friends and help our podcast grow.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren and Power Tank to see all of their great gear. We are a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a question or comment? Send it to us through our webpage at firearmsradio.tv or through our social media channels by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com, Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread light, be safe and courteous, and thanks for listening